The way I like to think of Charter of Rights or Bill of Rights is as a shield for people, not a sword to go after them. And I think it's being weaponized. Let me ask you about the Alberta Bill of Rights. I believe in restraining government. I think throughout history, it's government that has done the most violation of freedom. I've seen some mockery from law professors of the human rights or the Bill of Rights. And so that tells me it's good.
I see the black hats back there.
Give me a little bit of your thinking. What do you hope that the Alberta Bill of Rights will do that maybe the Charter of Rights doesn't do? Diefenbaker brought in a national Bill of Rights. Doesn't have the same teeth as the Charter. Quebec has a Bill of Rights. What's your goal?
Couple things. So the 1960 Bill of Rights, I think, was the first stab at trying to codify the rights that government recognized were important and in principle should not violate when they passed laws. And that was followed up by Lougheed's 1972 Bill of Rights. And then the Charter of Rights and Freedoms came in 82. But what was interesting to me is Section 26 in the Charter. And it says, even though we've listed a bunch of these rights here, there's other rights that exist. And just because they're not here doesn't mean that they're not protected as well. However, the court has acted as if those rights don't exist because they're not enumerated. And I was a property rights advocate going back to when I was an intern at the Fraser Institute. My first job back in Alberta was at the Canadian Property Rights Research Institute. And one thing that they have in the American Bill of Rights is that no property shall be taken for public use without just compensation. Ours says can't be taken without due process of the law, which basically means as long as you've passed a law, you can do it. And I just didn't think that that offered enough protection. So I have always wanted to change our Alberta of Rights or even our charter to add that clause about protection of property and just compensation, because when these kinds of cases have gone before the courts, they've said, well, that doesn't exist in the Charter. Therefore, economic rights are not important to politicians. Therefore, we're not going to enforce whatever challenge it would be, whether it's challenging gun laws or whether it's challenging the Canadian Wheat Board or any of the other number of challenges that happened over the years. So I'm hoping to start a conversation on that. So we're going to put protection in there for the ownership and use of firearms. We're going to put protection in there for just compensation in the event government takes your property or regulates its use away. We're going to put protection in there for expression so that we can hopefully challenge some of this cancel culture. And we'll also put protection in there for medical choices. You have the right to decide if you want to take a vaccine or not. You have a right to decide if you want a medical procedure or not. So we'll see, because here's what happened. Remember, during COVID, I know that there were a lot of private individuals from private companies who also lost their jobs, but it was government who set the stage. It was government who was enforcing that. And so we've then said, government's not going to do that in the future. We're going to respect rights. Anything that we do has to be done through that lens. And I hope that will have an impact on how private sector operators enact their policies. And if it doesn't, if we have to do more, then we can do more. But I think it's an important first step, and we'll see. What we're hoping to do is send a signal to the court that these things matter, that if we end up in a dispute, that they've got to consider whether or not government was reasonable and whether or not government put a lens on it of protecting individual rights.